Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of my podcast, The Questions of My 20s. This podcast is for anyone who is figuring out. If you're someone who wants more guidance on case competitions, career choices, internships, placements, entrepreneurship, then this podcast is going to be your go to guide. On this platform, we are going to call entrepreneurs, founders, students, and interns, and also professionals who have been working in your dream companies to share their journeys and also share their insights on the same. So, to kick things off, we have someone who truly embodies what this podcast is really about. So, our very first guest is Nandini Jhamb. She is an economics major and she has previously interned at NITI Aayog as the public policy intern. She is also someone who has served as the director of research at GAEE India, and she has worked on sustainability at Impacto and also worked in student led organizations like NITI Tantra. She has also published multiple research papers focusing on different themes. If you're someone who wants to figure out how to build your career in public policy and economics, or want to learn how to write research papers from ideation to publication, then this podcast episode is your go to guide. So, without further ado, let's dive in. Welcome, Nandini. It's very nice to meet you. It would be lovely if you could just give a kind of a introduction, small introduction.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ashi, for inviting me today on your podcast. I'm really excited to be here today, and I'm honored to be, I think, the first person to be on your podcast. Uh, Hi everyone. My name is Nandini Jhamb. I'm a recent graduate in economics from University of Delhi. I have a deep interest in economics and public policy, which I continuously explore through internship and leadership roles. I'm very driven by impact, and I'm here to share my journey with all of you. I hope that by the end of this podcast, it gives some clarity and direction to those who are just starting out in this space. So I think, Kashi, we can begin.
Okay. So, the first question from you is, what got you interested in public policy and economics, and how did you begin building knowledge in the field? Any key resources you'd recommend?
All right. So my interest in economics actually started in school. I was very intrigued by how economics could explain things that we see around us every day. We're always facing a trade off, right? Everything has an opportunity cost. We could spend our day watching Netflix, or we could probably study or work on a research paper, in my case. So I think the relevance and its adaptability to almost every field is something that drew me to economics. And when it comes to public policy, I think it came into the picture because I had a very strong desire to make a change or an impact in the world. I think I'm a very sensitive person. And for a long time, I used to think it's a very big flaw in me, but I see it more of a strength now. I think it helps me stay connected to problems around me. And I think that that sensitivity is what fuels me to work towards something meaningful and impactful. Coming to that, what we should do if we're just starting out and we're unsure, I would say the first thing is to make a strong base in economics and public policy. Now, this could be by studying on YouTube. If you're already doing economics honors, then please stick to, your books. Make sure that you're studying them properly because that is something you will be able to apply in your research and outside in real world. So that is one of the first things. Another thing is I understand that writing can be daunting. So it's important that you make a habit of reading editorials and articles, and later on you can switch to reading full research papers. So that's one thing. Apart from that, it's a very underrated thing, but it's very important that you attend webinars and policy debates. You can probably see it on YouTube or see that if someone is giving a speaker session, a lot of people post it on LinkedIn as well. So why I'm saying this is because public policy is a very emerging field in India. most of the people that you would know who are in this space are working in the government. So it's very important to get whatever exposure to this field from people who are experienced, and people who have some knowledge about this domain. And it's really important because you'll learn how to think like a researcher. You'll read an article, you'll read an editorial, you'll understand it as well. But how can you connect that to the bigger picture is what's important as a researcher, right? And if you have some experience of writing, you can probably write blogs and even post something on LinkedIn, your reflections or your opinions about some policy. You can talk to people like that, right? So it's important that you make a habit of just writing, even if you're unable to articulate your thoughts, it's okay. You can keep editing. But that is something I feel, you have to break that cycle of resistance when it comes to you writing, and especially critical thinking as well.
Okay,
So yeah.
great. So I'll be moving on to the next question. So you have previously interned at NITI Aayog, NITI Tantra, and GAEE India, and Impacto. How did you land these roles, and what helped you stand out? Any tips for applying and building a strong CV?
All right. So my first internship was at NITI Tantra, which is a student-led private think tank. Right. I actually found that opportunity on LinkedIn because I think I had just started college and I didn't know, what to explore. But my main agenda was that I want to get out of my comfort zone. So rather than being hesitant or underconfident, so this was the first thing that came across me, and I was very intrigued because I love the development aspect of economics. So that was the first thing, and the application process was basically giving my resume and giving a writing sample as well. So that was the first time I actually wrote properly. I had, I'm not even kidding, but I actually lied that I have written before, but that was the first time I actually wrote. But that gave me the opportunity, and I'm very grateful for that organization to give an opportunity to people like me and people like us who are just starting out in this field. I think my experience there was the biggest growth accelerator for me, because the amount of uh, feedback and criticism I got on every single paper, the amount of studying I had to do to just write a few lines was something that, really trained me for, future roles at government organizations. So that was at Niti Tantra. At the same time, I was also working with Impacto, which is a sustainability startup. I was initially a founder's office intern, and then I became an analyst there. That was a completely, private sector setting, but more or less, I was still doing research there. I was still doing content and copywriting and developing strategies for them as well. So even though the field was entirely different, but some things were common, which was research and writing. So I think that was also a good exposure to how startups work, because I was getting so much exposure to things that I never thought, someone would believe in me and give me such important tasks. So again, it was that opportunity I got through networking. It was just someone connected me with the founder. So I think it's very important that you are surrounded by people who can help you grow. So that is also an advice I would like to give everyone. Another then, since I had some experience, I then moved on to more formal roles. So I was the director of research at Global Association of Economic Education. So to give you a brief, basically it's a US-based non-profit organization that promotes economic and financial literacy. Every country has a vertical, and under each vertical of that country, we have college level clubs associated with us. So we call them chapters. So, as the director of research, my work entailed making research manuals, which is basically like every month we would give them a manual which was like a structured plan that they had to follow. There were certain activities that were mandatory for them to do because they would not get certificate otherwise at the end of the tenure. And they can also do their own activities, but it was compulsory to do at least those activities. So it just it was a great experience because I had to come up with more interesting activities every single month so that people are motivated to do those activities. If someone wants to join GAE India, so there are a few ways you can join. First is that you may have a college club, a chapter of GAE in your college. There are certain colleges that have that. If not, you can also open up a GAE chapter in your own college by applying through our website. So you can be the founding president of a college society, right? And it's a big thing. I think it's a great exposure to leadership. Apart from that, if you want to be the part of the core India team, then there are applications come out, I think, for associate level positions in the beginning of the year, I think between January and March. And for core positions like directors and chairpersons, I think at the end of November, the applications roll out for that as well. So I think apart from the research manuals, my team and I, we wrote articles, we reviewed a lot of articles, and we also did some speaker sessions and competitions for people. Uh, so that was with GAE India. For NITI Aayog, I was very hesitant to apply there because I always thought, I should have certain experience, then I'll apply. But I think most people feel that resistance and they don't apply, and that's why there are actually few applications that go to NITI Aayog because I met people at NITI Aayog who did not have research experience, but they were very passionate and open to learning, right? No organization would expect students like us to be professionals, right? We have zero experience, but what they want from us is that we have that drive to learn and we are resourceful, right? So I think that is very important. At Niti Aayog, I had some experience in writing, so I think that definitely gave me an edge. Um, I One thing that I worked on was an independent paper on India's startup ecosystem, and I also worked on a group project to do quantitative analysis on the aspirational district program under the Atal Innovation Mission. And we were also asked sometimes to, make notes or briefs or analyze certain data before our supervisor's meeting. So that actually just depends on who your supervisor and what kind of work they're willing to give you, right? So for Niti Aayog, I would say first is that even if you don't have research experience, it is okay. You don't need everything to be published, but you can still write. So one thing that I would tell you is that you don't have to write the best quality work. It doesn't have to be best, but it has to have some potential that you can, better it. Secondly, I think it's very important, especially at organizations, not just Niti Aayog, but any ministry organization, they do require some strong theoretical background in economics, especially economic related roles. And also, not just that, but, skills related to data analysis. So it's very important that you're proficient in Excel, and then later on you can learn how to do regression analysis if you've studied econometrics. So you can learn how to do stata, which was something that we were asked to learn at Niti Aayog. I think it's a good skill to learn. But you can also do R, and if you're okay with coding, then Python is also a great tool for regression analysis. Uh, Coming to CV, I think it's very important that you follow a very simple, formal format of a resume. You can probably see IIM's placement cells format. I think that's the best, most formal, and a little boring way of presenting. Second is please, it doesn't have to be a 2, 3 page CV. Even if you have done a lot of things, it's okay, but choose the best ones. You don't have to write every single thing. Those are the things that you can probably talk about in the interview, right? So that is one thing. Second is, which I did, was that, if you're applying at NITI Aayog, let's say, for example, so they don't ask you a writing sample right away. If you apply on their portal, uh, then they'll just ask you for your resume. Now, the thing is that I made a publications and research work column. So even if you don't have it published, you can still link that. The thing is that if you just write that you have published it, I am 100% sure that most of the people who are seeing your CV will never go specially to, see your work. So just link it so it's easy for them to check out. And I think that's something probably helped me to get into NITI Aayog. And just one last thing is that sometimes, you uh, put a preferred month for internship at NITI Aayog, but they don't call you in that month. So you just have to be very patient. I applied for May, June, but May, June month last year, but I got for July and August. So you don't have to feel disheartened if they're not calling you right away. It's possible that they may call you after 3, 4, 5, 6 months as well. So it's just about patience. And you can also message directors and officials on LinkedIn as well if you know their department, and you can express your interest if you want to work there. And sorry, one last thing that see, the department I was working in was economics and finance department. There are more than 200 interns in that department. So it's very easy for people to, for the recruiters to just miss out your application. So if you feel that you want a guaranteed internship and you don't have that much time, for example, you want to work in summer vacations only, then you can apply to lesser known departments that are equally good. Sustainability, energy. So there are very few applications there. So definitely your application will be seen there. So that's, I think, the last thing I would like to say.
Okay, so you mentioned that like the departments you can apply to a lesser known department. So does that department really matter? Like if I am from the finance and economics vertical or if I am from the sustainability vertical, does that really matter? Does that look different in my CV?
No, definitely not. I think working at NITI Aayog in itself is a big achievement for students like us, right? So it is just that the work would be different. If you're working in economics and finance department, you will just work on very core economics and finance related things. Although it's not necessary because there is a different department for Atal Innovation Mission. Yet I worked on Atal Innovation Mission in this department. So it's just that everything is so interrelated, and it is just that maybe they give you different kind of work and maybe it's very specialized, but I don't think it's any less compared to the economics and finance vertical.
Got it. Okay, so moving on to the next question. How do you choose your research topics and what's your process from idea to publication? Any advice for someone writing their first paper?
All right. So basically, I would say I follow a very basic structure when it comes to research. So the thing is, if I'm choosing a topic, there's one way, and I would say this: if you are passionate in economics, you will find economics in every single thing that exists. Like I said, there's always a trade-off. If I'm using the air conditioner, I will always feel, oh, it's impacting the environment. Oh, and then I'll relate it to, let's say, climate finance. So that is something that keeps going on in my head at all times. So the thing is that if you are observant in your environment, you'll find what matters to you. And if it interests you, you can then research about it to see what's happening about that issue. So, for example, if I'm passionate about women empowerment, then I will see that, okay, if we see today the female labor force participation rate is less, or if it's more, why is it less? Why is it more? Another thing, let's say I'm very interested in population, then I'll see that, okay, recently there has been a fertility decline in India. Why is it happening? What are the economic implications? What are the social implications? So, since economics can be connected with almost every single thing, you can find economics any and everywhere, right? So I think that is one thing is to be observant and find inspiration everywhere. If there are certain topics that are close to your heart, then you can definitely deep dive into it and find a focal point that you can, work on as research. So that was my way. So, for example, if I find a theme, let's say education or gender, so then I will go and read papers, articles, news, what's happening in the world related to gender or education. Then I'll see, okay, what aspects have been covered about it. Once I get this view of, what's happening, I will choose a topic that I feel most connected to and what is most relevant and how I can add value to it, right? Then I will just choose that focal point and focus on it even more to make a paper out of it. So I would say it's very important that if something interests you, it's very important that you cover it in depth and in width as well, right? And you can do it by focusing. I would suggest if you're reading newspapers, uh, focus on, let's say, Indian Express, Hindu, like the newspapers that are usually used by civil service aspirants, I think because they are more holistic in terms of covering the news, right? So when it comes to writing, now once you've identified a broad theme and you pick a topic, then it's important that you make a research question, right? Why it's important is because your research is going to answer that question. So, for example, let's say education, and I take intergenerational mobility. So, I will focus on that aspect. I will make a research question out of that, and then I will explain everything related to that and what I am adding to it. Every research, why is research original and why is it something that AI cannot generate, is because there needs to be some originality. Right. So first step, once you've identified a research question, it's important you do a literature review, which means that you familiarize yourself with whatever content exists on that topic. Right. So since there are so many papers, you don't have to read every single thing, but it has to be somewhat related to it. So for that, you can use Google Scholarly. There are certain research publications like ResearchGate. I think most of them are free papers, but there are some websites that have paid papers, which probably, if you uh, can talk to your professors, almost every university has an access to those websites, right? Because most of our professors are still doing PhD, so they can easily research. So you can ask your professor to help you out there, right? Once you've done the literature survey, it's important that you identify a methodology. So, what I mean by that is, it's important that you know that are you using primary data or secondary data. Now, as beginners, it's even I till now only use secondary data because it's very difficult to do a primary data search, right? You cannot it's very difficult to understand that what is an unbiased data set, right? How and what kind of sample size you want to take. So it's best that you use already existing data. Then you can get into more technicalities that there are certain methods in regression, like ordinary least squares method. Is that applicable? Do you need more advanced techniques? Right. So these are basic things. That you can see. But if you are just beginning and you don't have any knowledge about econometrics and statistics yet, it's best that you do a theory paper, do a qualitative research. You don't have to do a full, putting graphs and everything. It's okay. In the beginning, it's all good. Right. Once you've done that methodology part, then you can come to your results discussion and analysis. What did you find? What does, what already exists, the kind of data? Then you analyze it and then you connect it with what you want, what your contribution is, right? So already existing data, and then what you think is the implication of that and what you think can be added to that. What is your finding? So a lot of times, initially we think that research has to be groundbreaking. No, no research is groundbreaking. Right? Everything, almost everything, has been already discovered. At our level, what we we can do is we can confirm and validate what has already been found, right? So probably you can apply a model to certain country. Let's say there are economic growth models, let's say Solo model or Romer model, and you can apply these economic growth models to any country and see, is it valid in that country? Why is it valid? Why is it not valid? Right? But this again comes to a little quantitative side. Apart from that, I would say that your results and discussions, when they are done, then you can just conclude by saying, "Okay, all right, now we have this result. We have discussed why is it happening. Now, what is the way forward? What are the policy implications? Especially if you're doing, let's say, analyzing some ministry or analyzing some scheme by the government. All right. So whatever results you find, then you write, okay, how can we make it better? What are the implications of this? Who is it impacting? So these are certain as questions that you can answer yourself. And then most important part is that it's very important that you cite, right? Citations are something that people overlook, but it differentiates between a credible researcher and someone who's not credible. And why is that? Because you have to give credit to people who have done this research, right? So there are certain styles like APA, MPA, Chicago. So I think it's important that these citations are written properly in the proper format. And now we have certain AI tools also that can generate those citations, because I understand it's a manual work and everything, right? If you're using a certain data set, then at the end, make a data appendix and paste that data there. You know, it's important that you are putting everything that you've used in that paper, in that entire paper. Referencing is very important, and the format is also very important. So, in conclusion, I would say that a basic format that you would use would be having an introduction, having a small literature review, then having methodology, then results and discussions, and conclusion, and basic citations and references you can write. So, this is a very basic format for a research paper or a policy paper or any form of paper, actually. Right. Now, if you're starting out, I would say that don't jump into writing a paper right away, because it's a huge thing. A paper has to be more than 4 or 5,000 words, right? And it's very difficult to write 10, 15 pages and, having it to connect with each other. So it's something that you learn over time. So I would say start with research articles, write small articles. It can be, 1,000 to 1,200 words. Learn how to think critically. You're reading something, you're understanding, then how are you, comprehending it? How are you connecting it to other aspects? And how are you adding value to it? That is something you will learn once you read and write consistently. So I think that would be something I would suggest that people who are just starting out can do. And people who have some experience in writing, then I would suggest that, just stop hesitating and just start writing, and, write as you go. Keep editing, but just don't think that you would do the research, compile everything, then start writing. It doesn't work that way. It has to be an ongoing process. So I think that's it.
Got it. That was a very great elaboration on everything. Okay, so how has LinkedIn helped you in your journey? Any tips on personal branding to land internships or research roles?
All right. So I think personal branding, irrespective of whatever field you're in, is very important in today's time. I don't really use LinkedIn in terms of posting, but I do my best to connect with people in the field, talk to them, uh, talk about things that interests both me and that person. And also, I really focus on seeing people's posts and what their opinions are, and then share my opinions as well. So I think personal branding here is very important, especially on LinkedIn today, right? So some things that you can do is Probably, firstly, it's very important that you have a good profile picture. It has to be a confident and a very strong picture. It doesn't have to be an informal or casual picture because it's not Instagram, right? It's very important that the profile heading section, you should mention what you have done. It has to be just one word, right? Like I put NITI Aayog, I've put NITI Tantra, GAE, the companies that I've worked with, my major, and what I want to specialize in. So that's also another thing. It's important that you keep connecting with people on LinkedIn, keep following them, and you can always, if you want to accelerate your growth on LinkedIn, then probably I think you can use the LinkedIn free trial. I think it's 1 month, and just optimize that time networking with people and getting as many opportunities as you can. So it's important that you get out of your comfort zone there. Now, one thing very important in this space is that just don't post for engagement. Like today, we see that people are sharing just about anything on LinkedIn, which is fine. But if you want to be in policy space, then most of your content that you put out has to be related to whatever's happening in the world, what your view about it is, right? So the thing is that that analysis and that creating a valuable content out of it would take time. So post consistently, but it doesn't have to be that you're posting every single day. It can be, thrice a week. Start slow. And then if your analysis and writing and you can speed that up, then probably you can post more, right? So that's another thing. And I think personal branding and social media has been a very big part of my journey because I found my first internships there. I found you there. I found so many, like some of the brightest minds in the country are on LinkedIn, and you just have very easy access to talking to them, right? So I think that way, it's important that we optimize LinkedIn uh, that way, right? Apart from that, you can use websites like Glassdoor and Unstop if you want to, network with people and maybe participate in competitions. Because I've seen, I think you can participate in competitions with people that you don't know who are also looking for partners. So I think that is also a very good way of connecting with people who are similar uh, to you and who are in the same field. So that's another thing. I think for optimizing it for internships, yes, definitely. See, most of the government websites generally post, most of the government internships, they generally post on their own website. Not a lot of government agencies post it on their post on LinkedIn, right? But you will always find someone who's an active recruiter or someone whose content revolves around providing internships. You can definitely see on their page that they're always posting about, this internship is coming. And there are a few pages on LinkedIn that actively just post about internship opportunities. They have a WhatsApp group as well, they have a Telegram group as well that you can join, and you get continuous updates about which company is hiring, right? So for internships, I think that is one way that you keep a check. Another is that there is a job alert on LinkedIn as well, which you can activate. I always keep that open. So I always keep getting opportunities. And the best part about LinkedIn is it will filter out based on what you have fed into it, right? If you put skills like, let's say, data analysis, policy research, then it would give you roles related to that. It would tell you if it's remote, if it's hybrid, if it's on site, if it's international. So, all of these things, and if it's easy apply, because some companies you can just simply apply on LinkedIn directly, right? Another aspect is cold mailing on LinkedIn and cold texting on LinkedIn. I think it's a very important skill because a lot of people don't really know how to write those, and it may come across as rude, right? So, for example, I have had two different types of messages. Half of people would message me very politely. They would tell me their name, what they do, what they're passionate about, and that they want to know more about NITI Aayog, for example. But on the other hand, someone who's just texting me, "Hey, I want to know about NITI Aayog. How did you get in?" It just, if I feel a little weird about it. I'm definitely sure that people who are working there full time, who are civil servants, who are economic advisors to the government, how would they feel, right? So it's important that you follow a set format, that you're greeting them, you're telling them about yourself. There has to be some context to the conversation. And then you write about that, that you're highly interested in the department and you want to contribute, you want to learn, and then just in the end ask about if you want, let's say, if that you've applied and you would want them to see your resume, something like that. And same goes with cold mailing. It has to be a very professional and a very polite. It doesn't have to be informal at all. And through, uh, like, I don't really support AI writing, but you can definitely use softwares like Grammarly to improve your writing there.
I do believe networking is something which is very important. Like it helped me get to you. And I think that is something very, very important in whatever niche you are. So I think that's the end of this podcast. Thank you so much, Nandini, for joining me on the very first episode of my podcast. And thank you for sharing your journey, your insights. And I believe that anyone who is listening to this video can really benefit from it. So, thank you, everyone. And if you found the content really valuable, if you found her insights valuable, then please do like, share, and subscribe. We want to reach out to more and more people. And until next time, bye.